Welcome to Ask Gwen, everyone. Today I have Stephanie with me, and so I'm going to let Miss Stephanie take it away and explain more about what she does.
Well, hey, Wynn, thank you so much for having me on your show today. My name is Stephanie Ferrara, and I am a Christ-centered business coach. I help women who are in the early stages of their coaching business develop group coaching programs and online courses so that they can spread their message further with fewer hours, working less, and get further and better impact.
I love it. I love it. And now, what made you, I presume you were in corporate America before this, and what made you say enough is enough? What made you kick the bucket on golden bucket of corporate America?
Sure, yes. So I spent over 20 years of my life in corporate America as a project manager. And so I worked in the financial services and insurance industries, managing projects, back office type projects. So when I was in financial services, it was more around like loans and things like that, getting things, new products put together and working through new projects, big system conversions, all those types of things. And then in the insurance industry, I really got to get my feet wet in the web world and manage all of the online enrollment and some of in our actual corporate website and manage the projects related there. And had so much fun. I really did enjoy what I did as a project manager. I loved it's very similar to the entrepreneurial mindset. Every day is a little different. You're doing something new. Things change every few years as you work on new projects. And so it was always, I always enjoyed what I did. But for several years before I quit my job, I was looking for, I kind of knew, started to get that itch, that feeling that like there was something more that I was supposed to be doing. There was definitely something more, something bigger. I spent probably that 2 years before I quit, walking into work every day saying, you know what, I know you can use me here, God. I know that you still have me here for a purpose. I'll consider it a training ground for whatever's next. Help me be used here, but like, let's get on. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Yeah. Like, I know that there's more. So if we can speed up the training, let's speed up the training, right?
Exactly.
Then in March of 2017, I actually had a major accident, and we were taking care of a neighbor's dog, and we went over to feed him. And I went out on their back deck, and he attacked me, and he mauled my arms. And during my recovery from that attack was when God really got to get to my heart and do some work that I hadn't been still enough for him to do. I had been focused on working, and I was doing great things in ministry and everything, but he was ready to really work on me then. And I was finally at a place where I had nothing else to do but sit on the couch, arms propped up, recovering, watching TV, right? And so over that 6 months of recovery, he really helped to fix, I would say, a false identity that I had of myself that was totally wrapped up in my job. This belief that I am a project manager. It's not just what I do, but it's who I am, right? And that was all that I was a project manager. And what kept happening was, as I was going through physical therapy and I'd go into my follow-up appointments with my doctor, you know, she'd be asking, well, okay, well, how do you feel? Do you feel you're ready to go back to work? You know, those types of questions. And part of that is just feeling and getting a sense of, you know, for her, getting a sense of my mental state and things like that. But for the first 3 months, I couldn't open my left hand. The tendon had been damaged, and so I just couldn't open my left hand. And all I could think about in those 3 months was, my job is 95% communication, and I spend about 80% of my day typing. I can't type. I can't open my hand, so I can't type. How am I going to work? Right.
Yeah.
And as I was, so we'd go into those and I'm like, okay, well, my hand still doesn't open. I need to be able to type. Am I ever going to be able to type? And so after 3 months, I said, okay, we've given regular physical therapy, that occupational therapy with your hand, as much time as it can take, as we can. Generally by now, if it was going to come back like that, if it was, the tendon was going to wake up, basically, it would have by now. And so we scheduled surgery. We scheduled a tendon transfer, to take a tendon from below my wrist, that would normally be one that would close your hand, and attach it up on top of my wrist to make it open my hand. And so we did that in June of 2017. And so then I started a new round of occupational therapy, of hand therapy, that was really brain training, because it was training my brain to use that tendon to open instead of close. And as my ability to open my hand came back, as things were starting to work and everything, my brain started shifting at the same time, because God had been working on that identity, and I was less hung up on, I can't work, I can't type, what am I going to do? And I really started thinking, like, I don't want to go back to work. Now's my time. And so what had happened 2 years prior, was God had really given me a goal, a vision, this big vision for group coaching for business owners, and doing like business and life coaching. It was kind of a meld of the two. And at the time, I had no idea what life coaching was, and I didn't know what business coaching was. I had been a business consultant, where you go into another organization and you go and you do work, right? You help them out and you fill a gap in what they don't have. And so you come in as a consultant, and you advise, but you're also doing a lot of the work as well. And so I knew that. So I had to do some learning back then in 2015 of what was a life coach, what was a business coach, what is this dream that God's given me. And as I was recovering in 2017, that was when I really felt it in my heart that now was my time to start this business. I'd been given the dream, that training ground of 2 years had happened, and now it was time to get started.
Wow, that is amazing. Well, for me, I was given the dream of going back to journalism school, which I'm finishing up finally. And then I was also given the training ground in a job, but I really had an awakening moment when I was actually flying home being Aspen, Colorado, and I was actually flying home a week before the pandemic hit, COVID hit, and all what we knew got turned upside down. And this is when people were still allowed to travel. And I realized in the middle of Chicago International Airport that I was coming home to no job. But that made me happy because
Right.
I am like, okay, no job. This is what God really wants you to do. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
He gave you the opportunities to go down to Orlando to learn how to be a better podcaster and learn the tricks of the trade and meet your fan base physically. And now he wants you to go home, sit at home for, well, not sit at home, for a couple months and then deep dive into journalism. And I finally figured it out a couple weeks ago. I'm like, okay, you you sneaky you sent me out the door to um you you sneaky you person, you sent me out the door to do journalism in the best way I can, because I was only working every other month on my inclusion stuff at my job. And it's like, okay, why did they put me in this position? And then they shut it off right when COVID hit. God said, okay, I don't want Win back. I want Win doing this. I don't
Yeah.
want Win doing admin stuff and doing uh, diversity and inclusion stuff, which she, which I felt I was getting stuck with, and
Mm,
yeah. So that's my story. I'm sticking
yeah.
to it. The sneaky person has a plan for us. He just presents it in an odd way.
He does. I mean, I look at it so much with my story, really. So, I had 6 months of short-term disability as I was recovering. And so that, for when it comes to the corporate world and disability and all of that, at 6 months, that's as long as the company has to like hold your job and
Yeah,
things like that when you're on short-term disability, right? And so I know for me, my husband wasn't totally on board. I had started talking to him in those last couple of months about like, I think now's the time for me to start my coaching business. Can I start looking into it? Can I research that? Things like that. And he's like, I think, he's like, you have a really good job. You get paid well. They like you. Like, why do you want to leave? He didn't understand it at all. And as I was nearing that 6 month mark, it was like, okay, my company called. They said, do you feel like you're going to be coming back? And I said, I don't know. My doctor hasn't released me yet. And they said, okay, well, I think we need to go ahead and start the long-term disability paperwork, so that that's in place. Should you go past the 6 months, it's already taken care of. I said, okay, cool. Let's do the paperwork. So we did the paperwork, and that 6 month mark hit, and my boss sends me a text message, says we need to have a call with HR. We need to talk through what long-term disability looks like as you move into and transition to long-term disability. So we have that phone call, and I find out, well, what long-term disability means is I'm no longer an employee. I no longer have a job waiting for me. If I want to come back, if I'm released by my doctor and I want to come back, I can apply for a job again, right? So I'm welcome to come back, but I don't just step right back in. I have to apply for a
yeah.
job. And so one was like, oh, that would have been nice to know, but I know God didn't want me to know that, because I think, honestly, I think I would have been pushing harder on my doctor. And I think my husband would have been pushing harder on me to, like, you need to get back to work. Like, you need to get the doctor to wrap this up. Right.
Yeah.
And so basically I lost my job because I went into long-term disability. So, I mean, it was their policy. There's no, like, they didn't do anything wrong. It's what it is.
It's what it is. Yeah.
It's what it is. And so then here I am, I'm in long-term disability now. And within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, my doctor released me and said, you're great. You're good. Everything looks great. You can go back to work. And I'm like, I don't have a job to go back to. Right. And so I look at that though, and I think, if God hadn't pushed me past that comfortable mark, if I could have just walked right back in the door, I wouldn't be doing what I am today. I would have done the comfortable thing and gone back and said, well, okay, I'll find another way. I'll start, working on it in the evenings, whatever, I'll do it differently. And instead, it's like he knew he needed to get me to that point where I was no longer an employee, where it was
And
like, you know what? I think it's still time to do
it's
this.
a similar it's a similar story with me. He knew I was going on this cultural immersion trip. I had already, funny enough, I had already been presented this well, part of this trip, before this trip actually happened, I had already been presented half of this trip in October. I was I went down to Orlando just to survey the scene um, of Orlando in October on a totally different trip. And then it's funny because I um, landed up scrolling Twitter one night and I click a button. The next thing I know, I get an email saying, by the way, you won. And it's like, okay, now I really have to go because um and I think when we don't stop and listen, we miss opportunities
Yeah.
because it's like you could have stepped back into that job and you wouldn't be sitting here today talking to me. So
Right.
it's like, okay, sneaky person, he just has a plan for us without us even knowing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And to me, it's just more and more evidence. The further I get into it, I mean, more and more evidence of how God will turn something that was meant to harm you. I mean, like, I don't believe that God created or caused my dog attack. I believe that that was an animal who had kind of just had something flip in his head.
Yeah,
And knowing what I was doing in ministry at the time, I could even say, man, that was an attack of the enemy. That was the devil trying to take me out. He didn't want me to go down that path of ministry. Um, but what God did out of that, and out of that tragedy, has been amazing. And there's no way that I can say that's anybody but Him that has put me in the position that I'm in now. And with this being, yielding my business to Him, even knowing that, like, this is His dream. This wasn't my dream. If it was my dream, I would have known what a life coach and a business coach were when it came to
yeah,
me, right? But I didn't. I had to go do some research and say, what is this thing that you've asked me to do?
yeah,
And it's amazing now to be, um, it's 5 years from the dream and 3 years from the tragedy, right? And I'm living this wonderful life where I get to every day impact other women in the same way, to encourage them, help them start their business, help them build a profitable business, help them get their message out to more people. And that's what we're supposed to be doing in this world. That's the personal mission that He's given to me, that God's given to me, is to help others find what they are good at, dream again about it, like discover what their real gifts are, and then use them to serve others. And He wants us to do it through business. As far as the people that I'm supposed to impact, we're supposed to do it through business, because when we do it through business, we impact the economy of our homes, we impact the economy of our cities, those around that place where we live, because we now have other income. And we're able to impact ministries in the kingdom, because now we have more money to give as well.
yeah.
And where we're impacting so many things just by that one business getting started in that one home. And it's an amazing and a beautiful thing to be a part of.
And also on my end, I'm impacting people day in, day out. I don't even know when they listen to us, when I
Right.
don't even know if they'll pick up episode number 1 or episode number 20. Or your episode in between. They'll probably pick up your episode in between. But all in all, we, those of us in the communications fields, are impacting others on a daily basis.
Exactly.
And
And
those of
it's
us in
it's
the corporate,
providing that inspiration. It's providing inspiration
yeah,
and hope to those who who they're teetering on the edge. They have that dream. They're in that place where they have the dream, but they also have the I won't say the comfortable job, because there's probably something that's not quite comfortable
Yeah.
about it, so that maybe you'll be more likely to get out of it and do what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But it's comfortable in the way that there's a steady paycheck, and and you have that, and we're willing to put up with a whole lot of other discomfort for that steady paycheck. And we usually as humans will put up with it for way too long, because it's a steady paycheck, at least, even when we know we've got that dream inside us and that desire to do something totally different. And a lot of it has to do with the mindset, not only our mindset of believing in the dream, and believing that God can get us there more than we believe in ourselves. Like, we have to believe that if he's given us that dream, he's going to help us make it happen. But I think the other thing is also not believing those around us. Like, we have to learn to tune out the negativity of those around us, because when we're ready to take that risk, just like with me and my husband, I was ready to take that risk. It's time, babe. It's time for me to start this business. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but it's time now. And he's like, oh, whoa, slow your roll there, girl. Like, yeah, you have a good job, right?
Yeah. No.
And sometimes, and I'm not saying like go against your husband. We did finally get on the same page. It took a little convincing. Like, give me a year. Like, like we'll be okay financially. We're not going to be missing out. We're good. We've savings, things like that. We've got things in place that allow me to do this. And it was more around helping him see my vision and see my dream. And I'll be honest, we're 3 years later and he doesn't fully get it still, but he supports me now. Like, he sees it, he sees my passion for it, and he can support that. That's for sure.
So, where can people find you, and where can people get a hold of you if they want to use you?
Sure. Well, I'm on all the social channels, as far as LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, as Coach Stephanie Ferrara, and that's Ferrara. And then my website is empoweredcreativitycoach.com.
And Stephanie, as we wrap this interview up, do you have any questions for me?
I would love to know, what is the vision totally that God has given you? Are you ready? Like, is that something that you even feel like you can share? Because I know sometimes he'll give us a vision. He's like, it's not time to share it yet. But
I can share the vision that God has given me totally, is that he wants me in journalism in the field as quickly as possible. And yes, I'm transitioning into the field as quickly as possible. And now I'm finishing up a journalism degree, but he wants me, and it's surprising because I have gone over this vision. It's public, but it's surprising how little work he wants me to do with the disabled. He wants me to do more work outside disability realm, particularly focused on families with disabled people and caregivers, because I don't know what it is. I don't know. I still haven't quite figured that one out. You would think that he would want me to do more with the disabled. He wants me to do less with people with disabilities and more with their supports and include them. So I don't know. I don't know what that is. I mean,
right.
I mean,
but I love that I love that you've taken action, because one of the things that I know that I talk to people about often is sometimes he gives us pieces of the vision. Um, and even that piece seems really big to us. And so if he gave us like the whole thing, we'd
Yeah.
probably walk away and say, oh, no way, I can't do that, right? It would truly scare
Yeah.
us. Like whatever piece he's given us already makes us uncomfortable
Yeah.
and makes us step out of what's comfortable and what we know, and makes us depend on him to get us to that next thing. So I think it's amazing that he has put you in the place where he's like, I want you to support the support people. I want you to help and share with those that are supporting those with disabilities.
I don't know why. I don't know why. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a disability. I have people supporting me. And
Mhm.
so now he wants me not only to support my people, but he wants me to support other families with disabilities. And he wants me to help other families understand my story and help and get them help. I don't know what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I,
So
I
something that
thought
came to mind. Sorry, go ahead.
I thought that he was going to put me in a position to help the disabled,
Yeah.
not help the people around the disabled. Jeez.
Right. Well, one of the things that came to mind as you were sharing that is something that I've seen in the recovery ministry that I have been a part of for the last few years. And what that is when you have somebody who is an addict
Yeah.
get paired in a support group with the parent, brother, sister, the support person of an addict. They're not an addict themselves, but they've been the ones supporting, and putting them in a group together, because generally in the recovery world, like everybody's separate.
Yeah.
The addicts go to this meeting and the parents
Yeah.
of the addicts go to this meeting and the
Yeah.
siblings of the addicts go to this meeting, right?
Yeah.
Like you're separated. And what we've done in our ministry is everybody's together. And what that's done is provided very different points of view on the situations and on what's
Yeah.
going on. And so you have a unique point of view as being somebody with a disability and having people support you around you that have supported you, that now you'll be able to share, whether it's communication issues or just challenges in that relationship. You'll be able to share your point of view to the support people, so that then it gives them a different look into their own child, into their own relative that they're supporting.
Yeah. No.
And
And um this was only a couple of weeks ago, because that he finally gave me this total vision. As I get, and I know why he did it too, as I get closer and closer to the finish line of my journalism degree, and now he's starting to say, okay, this is what I really want you to do. I really want you to not only support yourself, but we'll put everything in place to support you. But now I want you to support others with disabilities, whether it's um, sharing your story of emotional and physical abuse. I was
right,
abused by an addict, and it's so funny because the my abuser doesn't think she did anything wrong, but yet
right,
she did. And
right,
so I I believe that since I've been in this journalism field as long as I have now, for 10 years, over that now, and I have been disabled for 33 years, but now I finally think that he is putting me towards a calling of I should help people not only with disabilities, but help those around them, because I just feel like I don't care if it's a stepmom taking care of a child. I don't care if it's a living aid. I don't care if it's aid that comes in daily. But I just feel like those people need help to understand the physical disability that they're dealing with.
Right, right. Yeah. You're in a very unique position for that, and God has placed you there for a very specific reason, for sure. And
He's
I have
giving me
heard
the job
blessings over you and
being
what you're going to be
exhausted.
doing.
He's giving me the job of being exhausted. No, I'm not kidding when I say that. I mean, it's like, okay, how many people am I supposed to impact today? Not only with my story, and not only with my story, but how many people am I supposed to impact with other people's stories
Yeah.
too? And it's like, okay, you sent me on this wild goose chase of losing both my parents. You sent me on this wild goose chase of becoming a motivational speaker. Now you're
Yeah.
putting in the plans to have a bigger purpose to help those who help the help, because
Yeah.
um, help with the disability, because it's amazing to me. And when I got this vision, I wasn't even home. When I got this, when I got the first pieces of this vision, I wasn't even home. I was on vacation, sitting on a couch, and I
Mm-hmm.
got a phone call saying from a person who was about to come work with me after we were switching aides, and I was switching aides. So I got a call from a person, and I had other people around me, and I got a call from a person saying, "When are you coming home? When are you coming home?" She knew, she, this other individual knew that I needed a bike. I was, I got flown to the East Coast because I needed a bike. And
Mm-hmm.
this person knew that her job was starting, but um, this person knew that her job was starting, but she also was so in that "when are you coming home" mode that she just wanted to gun ho. And I am sitting there with a with two other individuals who don't know my situation, and it's like, okay. And that's when I started piecing, when God started to piecing together the pieces of the puzzle. You need to help the people that help the
Yeah.
disabled, because if this happens to you, um, this happens to any of us, and especially during the pandemic, people are looking for jobs left, right,
Right.
and center. So, and for me, I require help 24 hours a day, and people are like, people need to know how to help the disabled, but at the same time, they're like stuck in that mindset. Okay, great, I got the job. Now let's move on. No,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, great, you got the job. Can you just give me a couple minutes to breathe and don't call me when I'm on vacation and wonder when I'm coming home? And
Right.
the person who I was traveling with, I told her that story a couple months after that happened. And she was like, "What? What?" And I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I had witnesses to that phone call too, who didn't know my situation. And it's like, okay, been invited, been invited to a vacation and been invited into a home, very nice home, by the way, and get this phone call of, when are you
Yeah.
coming home? I want my job. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
we have we have some educational stuff together.
Right.
So that's how God has now put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's always very interesting what a higher power and what God will tell us, because
Mhm.
without that situation happening, I don't know if I would probably still be doing um, journalism work and typing away on
Right.
helping the disabled. But now it's
Yeah.
more, I should help the people that help the disabled.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. I mean, it really is, and I'm look forward to watching your vision become reality.
Yeah, I did too. And now, now that I've shared my vision, and it's like, oh boy, what's next? What's
Uh-huh.
next? Wild goose chase. But I appreciate everyone's time. Including Stephanie's, for coming on and sharing her story. And I just appreciate everyone's time. And for those of you with a Amazon smart speaker who have access to Amazon Music, you can now listen to Ask Win in Amazon Music. So for those of you that have access to that, you can now listen to my podcast, including several others in Amazon Music. And I believe that Audible has now branded themselves as Audible podcast too. So you can find podcasts in Audible. So yeah, go scoot, go enjoy that. And I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to Stephanie and I speak. And I'll be back next week, you guys, with another fabulous episode of Ask Win. Thanks, you guys. Bye, you guys.